Hey everybody, welcome back to On Stage, Off Stage. I'm your host, George Sapio, and this is episode number 157, September 2022. Our guest this month is Lisa Villamil. Lisa and I met a few years back in the Actors Workshop of Ithaca Meisner Technique acting class. We spent months repeating what each other said. Since then, Lisa has become a playwright with a few notable kudos to her credit and has also continued acting as well as directing and producing. Her latest outing is a Zoom production of her play Siren, a three-hander family drama that packs a devastating punch. I'm really glad I caught your last production, Zoom production, Siren. I was a little confused at first. Okay. And, well, I mean, with such a non-linear, would you call it non-linear or would you call it parallel timelines?
I would call it non-linear, but any of the direct address happens in the present. That was actually one of my major worries, was if people were going to be confused, but I hope that if people just sort of sit back and let it happen, by the second or third scene, they're sort of riding easy and they figured out what's going on.
That happened for me because I tend to sit with things. I don't get impatient. I figure the playwright knows what she is doing. I hope the playwright knows what she's doing. And it started to unfold, and everything you gave us in those first few scenes kept me on my seat, which is what we all hope for. It's like strong opening. Yes, be a good playwright. Have a strong opening, which you had. And then it started to get... There were things being thrown in that had no explanation, but they were things that had been happening, which followed, as it turned out, the timeline of all of this. Now, I just want to get to the basic question on this. I mean, Siren is a head kicker of a play. And I found myself unable to tear myself away from it because I was dying to find out what was going on. But it's very painful.
Yeah.
Right? And... where did this come from? Why did you write this play?
Ooh. Well, okay, initially it was a short play. It was about 20 minutes, and it had a kind of different form. There were monologues between father and daughter, and scenes interspersed, but maybe 3 of them, and left you in the same place at the end, which I won't talk about the end too much.
No,
Everyone gets to see it.
Yeah.
But then that play, it didn't feel done, and I ended up signing myself up for a full-length playwriting class, and I thought, there's more story here. I think I should add the mother character in and see what's going on there. And it sort of grew out of that. As far as the painfulness in it, I just think I find sad things really beautiful and poignant. And I like writing stories about sad things that everyone can sort of connect to, Maybe it's not your mom that gets sick, maybe it's your best friend or your sister or something, but death in particular is like the main mystery of life. And the only thing that we as people really know about when it happens is, what happens to the people like us who are left behind. And I think, if you've ever seen someone sort of decline, that I saw lots of people sort of turn into the worst versions of themselves.
Sure.
Because that's, what can you do? You're up against this complete force that you're powerless against.
Yeah.
And so I think Siren sort of grew out of an experience like that as well, where people were maybe turning into monsters a little bit. Even the person passing away is turning into a monster a little bit. And I thought that might be kind of interesting to have. What if the mom actually does start to become this monster?
I found it I found it gripping because you didn't shy away from the painful stuff. I mean, it's lots of people write plays about family members passing and emotional loss, and somehow, at least in this country, we are kind of expected to have you can get through it kind of thing coming through at the end, be very uplifting, and a lot of life just is not like that, okay? We walk around for the rest of our lives with no closure to certain things. And, You know, that's tough and it's unfortunate, but that's the way things go, and it's sad. And watching things like this certainly manipulates the audience into feeling things they might not want to feel. But I'm curious because I wonder what happened to you while you were writing these things, because you come to a point where you make a choice. Do I go to this dark place? Do I be as truthful as possible while still being humanitarianly artistic? Okay. I mean, how do you go there? I mean, how do you process this sort of thing? You get this out of you and onto the page.
Yeah, yeah. How do you? I hope audiences don't feel manipulated. Ultimately, I think, I mean, as artists, you're a writer, you're an artist too.
Sure, yeah.
You want to tell the truth, or like, what are you doing? What's the point? Art is supposed to be about telling the truth. So I hope I'm not manipulating anyone.
I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean, but when you tell a story, you want a certain effect to get through. I'm telling you this story in this fashion because this is how it occurs to me. And your audience should be a little bit different at the end of your story. So I don't mean manipulation in a bad way.
Heard.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that the story, ultimately to me, the story's hopeful at the end. Like we've gone through the weeds. We have these sort of, the story of the mom's decline happening and the story of daughter running away and how those both like intersect in their different timelines. But, you know, at the heart of it, you also have these characters undergoing change. You know, father realizing that he has maybe been too hard on daughter, and he has been like holding on too hard and building this lighthouse to guide her back home as she gets stuck in this storm.
Yeah.
And I think that that's, you know, if we're very lucky in life, we have those lighthouses from the people we love when we need them most.
Sure.
And so I think you have to have the end have any payoff, you know, like, is she going to go back? Is she not?
Right.
We need to go through the weeds because that's life, you know, we go through the weeds in life and hopefully we get to the other side. I don't know. I think you just have to be honest hopefully we do.
Yeah.
I think you just have to be honest when you're doing art. So I think that's how you go there. That's why you go there.
But honestly, it's the hard part. You know?
It is the hard part. It's weird to be mean to your characters, right? Like.
Well, yeah, it is weird to be mean to your characters, but if you are treating your characters with dignity and honesty, you know, unfortunate things are a part of life. And part of the reason I ask this is because I've spoken to producers who have looked at not only my work, but other folks' work. And as someone who has tried to select other folks' work for production, I come down to what is going to put butts in seats? What does my audience want to see? Okay. Should I take this particular play, which doesn't cut any corners? Or should I take the play that's a little bit easier on the heart and a little bit easier on, you know, and, you know, as a writer, I guess for all writers, it comes down to where do I go? Because we're playwrights. We want our work produced.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Oh, boy, I wish you guys could have seen the look on both our faces for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is the tough thing too, especially post-COVID, right? All of these theaters now want to produce these like fluffy, fun plays like Mamma Mia and Neil Simon, and that does have its merit. But I think that sometimes the people picking seasons are a little scared. Audiences don't just want to laugh their butts off. Sometimes, you know, Aristotle lets us know audiences need catharsis. That's what they need. And especially the last couple of years, lots of people have gone through tragedy where someone has experienced a debilitating illness.
We've had over 1 million dead in the States from this thing. I mean,
the States alone.
Yeah.
In the States alone. And audiences need catharsis, you know. I'm not saying, I don't think anyone right now wants to watch a COVID play because that's maybe a little too soon. It's a little close to home. But there is a place in theater for stories that are heavier and stories that reveal the human condition in ugly ways. There is a place for it.
Yeah.
Just got to be brave. Yeah.
Sure. Where is this play in development? Are you done with it, or are you gonna keep tinkering with it?
I'm hoping that I'm done with it. After
Okay.
the last reading, I went through and I did some edits that I'm hoping are the final ones. I don't even know what number draft I'm on at this point because I've just gotten lost in the weeds with that.
Yeah.
But saw some things in it that I thought, that scene doesn't really work anymore. You know how you do edits and sometimes a scene that's maybe been in there since the first draft no longer makes sense like 7 edits in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's some stuff about that. Added a scene, removed one of the direct addresses. And language changes too, like the meanings of words can change as time goes on, and I've been working on this play for probably close to 3 years now. So I want to say it's done, and if anyone would like to produce it, please find me, and I will let you do that.
Sounds good. I wish I could produce it right now, but I'm not in the space to do that.
It's expensive to produce.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. It's a highly sensitive play, and it deals with some very, very truthful things. And there's a lot of honesty in the play. Why didn't you give your characters names? Why didn't you just say, this is Jenny and Bob and Rainbow,
Rainbow.
or whatever, okay?
Yeah.
But you left them as mother, father, and daughter.
Yeah.
And it was just a point for me because I'm getting so much coming through on this play that I wondered why you kept me a little bit pushed out with not giving them names.
I think there's a few reasons. One, and we've sort of talked about like how we make the audience feel. There's something kind of nice about having a little bit of depersonalization, I think, and not giving them names. But I kind of wanted it to remain universal. And I also think that names have personalities. And I didn't want to limit a person. Didn't want to limit an actor by giving them a name that might have a personality. Like I hear Jenny, and don't you can't you come up with someone who's Jenny as opposed to someone who's Sharon? It's like a totally different person.
Oh my God, they should be sisters. They're so not alike.
They're so not alike, right? So I didn't want any personality sort of laid over it. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
Thank you.
No, I've had that problem with names myself because I struggle with names, and I've got to find the right name for the right personality on this character. And some of my early drafts have people referred to as Big Jerk, which generally doesn't make it all the way through, and huge pain in the butt. So yeah, and snotty person.
As a placeholder,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just one. It's better than 1, 2, and 3 because then I get confused about whether whatever. Symbolism. I was noting in Siren, again from your unnamed characters, you've given them. You haven't nailed them down as far as indications with names, which totally I absolutely get. But at one point you bring in the name Calliope. Okay, and you've got a makeshift lighthouse, and to me those stood as symbols for where the journey is going for all 3 characters. And I was kind of curious as to why. I mean, the lighthouse I can kind of understand because let's hold that out there so everybody finds their way home. Calliope was interesting though. Why'd you come up with Calliope?
So Calliope is the name of the boat that mother passes on to daughter. And Calliope birthed the Sirens. So that's where that name came from.
Okay.
But there's like some... throughout the piece, something I was trying to do that might, sometimes I think is a little heavy-handed, but hopefully audiences can kind of ignore it. I have an English degree, and so I like writing that's very tight and that has references all over the place. And I went and I found different references to different cultures that had women who basically like called people to their deaths, or women who had something to do with their voices. So there's like banshees, there's sirens, there's rusalki, which are like mer people. Yeah. And all of that was supposed to sort of mirror what's happening with Mother and sort of give the play like a mythic quality itself. So yeah, Calliope is just like a very heavy-handed, like, birth the sirens, the play is called Siren, here you go.
Hey, you know, it's I've seen heavier crowbars than that one, believe me.
Good.
Well, I mean, that's what symbolism should be. It should be a way of cluing the audience into the message, the meaning, the intent that you're trying to get across. So, okay. We've known each other, well, we've known of each other for a long time, okay? A few years. When I first met you was in an acting class.
Yeah.
And yes, please, let's not go into the Meisner thing. I still have nightmares.
No. Repeat. Okay.
Repeating? You're scaring me. Okay.
Oh my God. Like, shortly after that class, I became a classical actor, so...
Oh, thank God.
Complete swing in the opposite direction.
But were you writing at that point, or did that come later?
After that class is actually when I wrote my first play.
Okay.
It was very short, because I wasn't acting. I had just graduated from college, and you know how it is when you're first trying to get out into the artistic world. There's not a lot. You got to build those connections. You got to pay those dues.
Yeah.
And so I wrote a play. It was awful, but somehow I got accepted. Into this like self-producing festival in New York. So I had a friend. I went up and I did that. And at that point, I decided I would never again act in anything I wrote. Do you act in the things you write?
I have on one or two occasions. I hate it because in the back of my mind, I'm like, who wrote this crap?
Yeah.
What's even worse is trying to direct it.
Oh, no, I can't even imagine.
Well, yeah, you know, not recommended. I know lots of people who think, well, I know what I want and I'm going to put it on stage. But yeah, no, I try not to.
I really firmly believe that if you write the play, that's your job. And when your job is done, you like the play is in one form what you have written it, but it's going to get produced everywhere, right? Like if you think about Shakespeare, he's been produced for hundreds of years, everywhere. And the reason he keeps getting produced is that people will read it and find new things in it.
Sure.
And I want that to happen with my plays. I want them to read it and focus in on, you know, whatever they want to pick to focus in on. You know, loss is the theme here, so we'll focus on that, or hope is the theme. And those plays, while they are both valid, are completely different plays. A play that focuses on loss versus a play that focuses on hope.
Sure.
So,
yeah. Well, loss and hope kind of go together.
Kind of.
Yeah, kind of. But I totally agree with you. I mean, it's when I write a play, the perfect version is in my head. So let's talk about the experiences you've had in that particular situation, because I know you've put your stuff through development, rehearsals.
Yeah.
You throw your script in and people say, it's lovely, I want it. And they start to do it. And all of a sudden, through no fault of anybody's, questions come up. And so how did that affect Siren or any of your plays, actually? I mean, was there anything that stood out among all the rest of the, you know, developmental incidents?
Ooh. With Siren, I was very lucky to have multiple instances of development.
Okay.
So, first thing that happened was I was in a full-length playwriting class, which was sort of, you know, sometimes you need some help to jumpstart.
Sure, yeah.
And then after that, I was in, Philadelphia has this writing group called The Foundry.
Right, I've heard of them.
Which is an extension of Playpen now. Yeah. So for a year I was in The Foundry, and I got feedback there. And there's nothing quite like getting feedback from other writers. I think we've all been in situations where, if you're a playwright, you get feedback from other writers, but then there are also situations where you're getting development feedback from like actors and directors.
Sure, yeah.
And writers just know how to talk to writers, if I'm honest.
Oh, we could go for another 2 hours on this one.
I know. but, they know how to frame
Yes.
criticism so that it doesn't quite sound like criticism. What is it, the Liz Lerman method of, if you illuminate things for me as questions, like, well, I don't understand, why did so-and-so make this choice here? It lets me know that I have a hole in my
Yes.
in my plot, that you have not picked up on something that was necessary for you to understand the script. So I guess when it comes to development, with Siren, I was particularly lucky to have other writers helping me develop the play. That has not always been the case. I'm not saying that it's not helpful. Having actors come in and give you criticism is helpful too, because you want to know that your play is fun to be in.
Yes. Yes.
So
it's nice to know that the actors are enjoying the experience.
Yeah, that's not a chore, that they're not just here for whatever very small paycheck they're getting, because I'm sure it's not that big.
Yeah, because the last thing you want to hear in a rehearsal is, when does the show close?
Oh my God, it's the last thing. Yeah, for sure.
I've had that asked. Yes.
No!
Yes.
No, fire them. Fire those people. Yeah. God, but yeah, I guess that's my experience as far as things go.
Yeah, it's my experience with development is ridiculously like a stormy sea.
No.
The first time I had it, I had no idea what was going on, and I had no idea that this was a process. I thought, they want my play, yay! I'm a genius. And they're like, well, let's sit down and talk about this. And we read the play, and they asked me these questions because they knew I was a complete stranger to it. And all of a sudden I realized, oh, okay, yeah, these questions are legitimate. Oh my God, I'm not the reincarnation of Edward Albee, thank God, anyway. But yeah, it made the play a lot better because all of a sudden I was privy to things that people walking out of the audience would have said.
Right.
And
I'm sure I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, and being, I can't be there at every performance. I wouldn't want to, my gosh.
Oh my gosh, that's horrendous.
Yeah, but, I've had people say, why'd you do this, and why'd you do that, and why'd you do the other thing, and I didn't like this. And all of a sudden, I was hit with a whole lot of things that I thought, oh my God, I've got some rewriting to do, so,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I just love playwriting so much.
Oh, what is it? Gosh, there's this quote, I can't remember who it's by now, but it's like having written it, or no, writing is terrible, having written is great, or something along those lines.
Yeah, I love having written. Yes.
I love having written. Even editing is way, way easier than the writing process initially, I think.
Yeah. It's nice when it's done. Are you in the middle of anything now? You got anything on the works?
Yeah. I'm in the middle of writing a short film, wordless piece, which I think will be fun because film is fun because you tell the story with visuals more than with words, right?
Yeah.
And I'm also in the middle of a two-hander that has no title.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
I'm awful with titles, but that's what I'm in the middle of right now. Okay. What are you in the middle of? What are you doing? I
just finished what I'm calling, for lack of a better title, here we go with titles again, because I'm terrible at them. Oh my gosh. Right now I'm calling it Carol, a triptych. And it's 3 12 to 15 minute pieces over the course of the life of this woman who has learned to fend for herself despite most of the male figures in her life being less than supportive in so many ways.
What?
Yeah, I know.
What a crazy concept.
Where did that come from? But it started off as the first piece, just as a prompt from one of the groups that I belong to, and I thought, yeah, but I want to see what happens to her later. So,
amazing. Sometimes the characters just don't shut up. They have no
say. I know. I love those characters. Already, she's one of my favorite.
Yes.
I want to detour over here to some more kudos for you, because I'm looking at the Capital Fringe review, talking about, and I'm going to quote because these things should get a little bit more promotion than just you seeing them and going, yay. Like, you should see it. It is the best thing I've experienced at a Fringe so far. It is the best play I've seen this year. The stakes couldn't be higher. Life and death, but their ability to control their fate is limited, although at times they toy with the idea of survival. They never seem to fully believe they have a chance. I want to see this right now.
Good.
So, how did that make you feel? This is a softball question, by the way.
Oh, my Lord. Amazing. Yeah, you know, it's kind of crazy, right? Because you write plays, and that was a self-produced one that we'd sent on tour to, like, I don't even know, 4 different countries. And you just sort of send your art out into the void, and it's so rare that you hear back that the art made an impact.
Yes.
And to hear that it made such a large impact, oh man, that made all of us feel really, really good. Because, you know, that production had been a year in the making or something like that.
Yeah.
So much, you know, sweat, so many tears, so much work. And it worked out. Oh, it's the best. It's the best feeling. Yeah.
It's nice when somebody else can give you that kind of kudos and, you know, congratulations and approbation for all that, because it is rare.
Yeah.
You know, what most real people, those people who are not in theater, you know, it's the general public, don't realize the time that we put into this. And it's not like we're just scraping something out for another episode of whatever's coming on 7:30 on Channel 11, okay? These things take time, and the emotional investment is palpable, and it's considerable. And yes, good theater should change the audience. Yes, I've heard that 100 times. But they never talk about how it changes the playwright.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, now, because I knew you before you wrote, or before you started writing, and I'm seeing you again for the first time in several years now. How has playwriting changed you? I mean, let's say worldview, personal view, you know?
Personal view. I think it's made me more empathetic. I thought acting had done that, and then I started playwriting. And playwriting, it's a totally different ballgame because, you know, when you act, I have to worry about one character. That's it.
Yeah.
But when I'm playwriting, I'm worrying about all characters, and not just in like a separated sense, like the director is looking to create something. I am like, I care about all my characters, even the ones I don't like that much.
Sure.
You know? I have a personal connection to all of them because all of them are little snippets of how I've come to understand the world. So I think, if anything, playwriting makes you more empathetic, makes you more able to see different worldviews, and forces you to, because if you want to have conflict in your plays, you need characters with opposing points of views or opposing wants, and we as people, you know, sometimes have internal conflicts, but they're never as big as external conflicts where you have two people going at each other, two factions of people going at each other. So by writing, you're forced to understand all aspects of an argument, and it just makes you a better communicator, and it makes you a better person, I think.
I would hope so. That's one of the things, because I've seen so many stock characters that are just evil. You know, and the whole Snidely Whiplash thing with the top hat and then twirling the mustache and going, yeah, you know. But we never know what made them who they are. And yes, they can act reprehensibly and they can do horrible things. But in my world, the audience needs to understand them, not sympathize with them, but understand them. And you have to give the audience, because without that, there's no complexity. It's black against white. When most of life is gray against gray, even the heroes have nasty, dirty secrets. They should.
Then they're more interesting. I think that's probably why we saw a shift in like television narrative too. Like people want deeper. They want deeper characters, and we had this golden age of television sort of hit where the people who were leading were anti-heroes, you know, like Walter White, anti-hero.
Yeah.
Don Draper, anti-hero. But we still want to watch them because we understand them and they're interesting. It's interesting to sort of parse out how a human being can become quote-unquote evil, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the underlying principle behind my favorite Shakespeare play, which is Richard III.
Yo, listen, yes, good choice.
Yes, yeah. Richard's one of my favorite. I wrote a play about him. That was years ago.
Yeah.
But who else can walk out and say, I hate everybody. I'm going to kill everyone. And you're going to sit there and watch me for the next 3 hours. And then 2 scenes later, he successfully woos the widow of the guy he killed.
I know.
After admitting that he killed him. And
I
it's
know.
like, you're sitting there and it's like, oh my gosh.
The thing that's wild with that play is that the audience is actually complicit, right? Like, he tells you what he's going to do and just, like, invites you to sit back and watch. But because he's gone and broken the fourth wall, he sort of makes you complicit in whatever violence is about to happen. And that's sort of an uncomfortable position to be in as an audience.
Sure, yeah.
You know, you're like watching this man honestly kill children at a certain point. He sends these murders to go and kill the 2 heirs to the throne. And, I mean, that's kind of one of the effective things of Shakespeare, though, is he, like, reaches through the audience and pulls you into the story. It's immersive without being immersive? I don't know.
Yeah, it's addictive.
It's addictive.
It makes you realize you're not black and white. I mean, I've been watching The Blacklist for 8 years now, and the lead character on that is irredeemable reprobate of just, you know, murderous proportions, but there's a sympathy there and there's an understanding that makes you want to keep watching this. And I feel so dirty when I'm doing it, but it's, you know.
Yeah, it's like, how could I enjoy this? But you know what? We all have these dark things in us, right? That maybe we don't want to admit are there, that we have to fight down or just keep down, keep a lid on them. And good art, good theater is going to remind you that there are multiple sides to all human beings. You know, we're not just good or bad, we're the things we do.
No, and people like you and I, we go there regularly.
Yeah.
And we dig that stuff up and we spoon it onto the page and it's like, oh, look at me, I'm an artist. Yeah, this is... Yeah.
Sometimes the things my characters do, I'm like, oh God, I can't believe, where did that come from? I can't believe that's inside me. This is really scary. Like, my mom has read some things I've written and been like, I didn't really like this that much. And I'm like, that's okay.
What's the one time a character really surprised you with something they came up with?
Okay, I wrote this Hansel and Gretel short play. And in it, Gretel has become anorexic, and so Hansel has, like, trapped her in a room and will not let her leave unless she eats. And so there's, like, food strewn all around this room. And she sort of tricks him by the end, like, because he says, I'll give you anything, I just want you to eat, I just want you to be healthy, we're supposed to be twins. And so she tricks him in the end to, like, cut off his own hand so that she can eat that.
Wow.
Yeah. I know, it was really gross. Even saying it, I'm like, where did it come from? Like,
oh, I love it. Oh my gosh, I want to direct it. Okay.
Oh, well, yeah, you know, it's only 10 minutes. It was disturbing enough that 10 minutes was, like, just enough for the play.
Oh my good Lord. Playwriting is our therapy, I think.
It's something.
Okay. Oh my gosh, Lisa Villamil, this has been... I can't believe we waited this long to be back in contact with each other. This has been such a joy speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time twice to make this thing happen.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been lovely. I so rarely get to talk about playwriting. It's very, you know, isolating as a craft.
It is, but it's also very cathartic too when you get the chance to do this, you know. Good luck with everything you got coming up, and please, let's stay in touch.
Sounds good. Have a good one.
Hey kids, thanks for listening to Onstage Offstage. Onstage Offstage is produced monthly, and all of our shows can be found at onstageoffstage.org and also on iTunes and Spotify. If you enjoy what we do, please recommend us to your friends. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at OnOffStage. And if you are a theater artist with an upcoming project of interest or know of someone in the theater who'd make some seriously good chat, by all means, send us a note at info@onstageoffstage.org. I'm George Sapio. Thank you once again for listening. And please, stay safe, be careful, not only for yourself, but for those with whom we all share this rock. And as always, happy theatering to all of you.